Good morning, everyone. I know this week is spring break, so I hope all of you are getting some extra rest, maybe going on vacation, doing what you need to do to recharge for the rest of the semester. I just wanted to do a video this week to make sure we're all ready to move into drafting the critical review next week. So, I got most of your annotated bibliographies. Good work. The purpose of the annotated bibliography is to start reading your sources and thinking about why they matter in terms of your research question. So it's a formal version of pre-writing. It wasn't named in pre-writing techniques that you read early on as a type of pre-writing, but you most likely will never write an annotated bibliography in a professional setting. It's more to get you to read your sources, understand your sources, and then you can start organizing your ideas for this major research document that you need to write. So you obviously don't have to revise that document. It's for you to keep, to understand what your sources are about, but you can obviously use it to use the citations for either your references page or your works cited. So you can copy that text, but then remove the paragraphs that you wrote about the sources. So use it to draft your critical review and apply my comments to the critical review. So I wanted to preface what the critical review is, just because we have some extra time. Some of you may already be thinking about it, so why not get a little head start? A critical review is the synthesis of information you found on one topic, and it's your thoughts on what all of this information means. So in the discussion forums, some of you had said, well, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do for this document. It's very open-ended in the sense that you are coming up with your own research topic. So you all have found these different things about medicine and religion, police misconduct, immigration, all these really interesting topics that many people have written about. So now you have found this information, and as you read it, you're forming your own opinions. So that may be where some of your concern lies, because you will not know your exact thesis until it could be somewhere as you're drafting draft one, it starts to be a little clear to you. Sometimes the thesis isn't incredibly clear until draft two, or it takes until the polished draft in the portfolio to start to say, oh, now I understand my main feelings, not feelings, but my main view on this topic. But the important thing is, in the critical review, you're reading specific research and information about one main topic, and then you are writing your analysis of these main ideas. So I thought, what better than to provide some sort of sample for all of you to see where a student went from this big idea of a discourse community they belonged to or wanted to belong to, and then an actual critical review. So this critical review I like to use because the student picked a discourse community that you wouldn't normally think of, and then they took it and really found a specific topic to write about. So this student wanted to be a young adult author. So specific group of people, obviously they write in a specific genre, young adult. So this student decided, okay, I really like young adult literature and I want to be an author of young adult literature. What can I study? So this student said, oh, after searching the library database, there's a lot of literature on Harry Potter. They didn't expect that, but I said, search the library database and see what you can find. And they found that indeed scholars have a lot to say. So then the student decided to focus on 2 themes in Harry Potter. So you'll see the title of this critical review is The Importance of Love and Death in Harry Potter. And also a note, this is in APA format. So I will read the introduction to you, and then you can read the rest of the document to get a full sense of how they took the research on different sources and then wrote about the research and also how it fit into their own thoughts about the topics. In today's culture, critics and parents argue that video games and television are taking children away from imaginative endeavors. Yet in this cultural climate, the book series by the British author J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, has become a popular culture phenomenon, selling millions of books and also becoming a hit with children and adults. And then note the citation. In addition to the book series' popularity, the magical and sometimes controversial content has also sparked debates in the media. The heavy themes of death and sacrifice cause some people to question the suitability of the series for children. Critical analysis will be utilized to examine the impact of Harry Potter as its themes impact private and public spheres of popular culture. Through discussion of Harry Potter, a much-needed dialogue is stimulated about moral issues within popular culture. Introduction. So the student sets up the scene where they say, Harry Potter. Even though people say kids aren't reading, this book series has been a huge success. Then they go on to paint it's magical and controversial. So it's been heavily debated. And then their thesis is that through this discussion in pop culture, a dialogue is stimulated about moral issues. And then there is the whole text of the critical review, which I encourage you to read. I use this example also because it's not the best example, but the student really tries to engage their sources. So there are many citations. You should always have those in-text citations so your reader knows where you're getting the information that supports your views. So that is that sample. Please email me with any questions, or if you have a draft of your critical review ready at some point over spring break, feel free to email me with a specific question about it. So a critical review is a type of genre, and a genre is a written document. And to connect this to discourse communities really clearly, now that we have these rhetorical analysis terms and the discourse community concept, all discourse communities have a way of communicating with each other, right? That's what we read in Swales. So if discourse communities have a way of communicating with each other with text, we know that they use multiple genres. So this is obviously things like email. Lots of discourse communities use email or letters, but they also generate specific types of texts. So if you're having some trouble still with genre, when you think about music as a genre or different movies as a type of genre, they are actually texts. You have movie scripts, and then you break those scripts down into comedy script, drama script, romantic comedy, or when you have music, the music can be transcribed. So you have those different genres like R&B, pop, emo, trap. You have all sorts of different types of textual genres. So and in the music community, they are a discourse community because you have the different producers, you have the artists that may also be in the same role as producer, songwriter, performer. And if we look at something, let's say a little more specific to this class, the rhetoric and English comp community is a discourse community. So in this class, you are a temporary member of that discourse community. I am a more long-term member because I work in the field, it's what I study. So one major genre that I read are academic textbooks. And so you actually read a chapter from one that much of my pedagogy comes from. You read a chapter of this text, A Rhetoric for Writing Teachers by Erika Lindemann. And you read pre-writing techniques. So you read one chapter from a genre document in the English comp rhetoric field. And so you can tell what type of genre this is, well, because you have the physical book. You can look at the title and see who the specific audience is, or who Erika Lindemann thinks this primary audience, writing teachers. But then you all become part of the audience when I scan the chapter and ask you to read it for class. Or since we don't really meet at a specific class time, I ask you to read it for the discussion. And let's look at a discourse community that maybe you wouldn't expect to have texts, because some of you also have been struggling with what can a sports community be a discourse community? If they are creating the text that you can find and analyze, yes. So the running community could be a discourse community. Different running stores send out emails that are not just personal emails, but they are press releases about different events, different tips for running. But then there's also magazines. So this is a specific genre, print magazine, that the running community uses, because indeed it's called Runner's World. So runners read it, that's the primary audience, but sometimes you get different communities, like different fitness communities, that decide they want to read the tips here. So that's when you get the secondary audiences. But you still would never say that the audience is anybody, because there's always some sort of specific intention with why these documents are written. So think about that. Pay attention to the different types of writing you're encountering. Maybe this week, since we don't have any major assignments due, look around at the different texts and identify the genre and how a discourse community can use them. Because then you may start to think about the text around you in more purposeful ways. That's all for this week. I hope you have a great spring break, and if you have any questions about your critical review, any more questions about genre and how discourse communities use it, please send me an email. I will see you all again next week.